Go to Canberra now, the last sitting week of the year, and I can see David Littleproud. He is, well, I wouldn't say you're limping to the end, David, but you look like you'll be happy when this week is over. Let's look at the Nationals and the Liberals in New South Wales for just a moment, because at a federal level, not signing up to net zero, but it seems that New South Wales will stick with that. How's that going to change things? Because it's often the state governments that have to implement these kinds of policies and projects.
Yeah, well, what they do is they implement what the federal government puts in place as their policy. And the policy that we'll put in place in 2.5 years' time is one that will remove ourselves from net zero. We'll still reduce emissions, but we're going to keep pace with what emissions we actually emit. We're 1.1% of global emissions. We don't need to streak ahead because we can't mitigate all the world's emissions right here in Australia for the rest of the world. But we should do our fair share. And when you're 1.1%, we shouldn't be a laggard, but we shouldn't streak ahead. This government wants to commit Australia to reducing its emissions by 4.8% every year between now and 2035. OECD countries are doing it at 1.7%. So what we're saying is there's a cheaper, better, fairer way for Australians and the lived experience that they have of their energy bills and the job insecurity and Tomago and Whyalla, but even the new industries like AI, than Labor's $9 trillion net zero plan. And so the states will work with them constructively, but I think you'll see that we'll send the very strong signals from a strong coalition government around a sensible, cheaper, better, fairer way to look at emissions and look at energy.
It's still not clear how better and fairer would be achieved under your plan in the short term. And I want to point you to an article in the Fin Review this morning that shows where the market is going. So you've dumped net zero in the last week, and now Energy Australia is talking about the Yallourn power plant. This is an ageing coal-fired power site in Victoria. It's got, I think it's due to close in 2028. It's due to close in 2028. That might get extended, but the long-term, well, not even long-term, the medium-term plan for that site is for a $5 billion transformation to renewables and things like AI data centres. Doesn't it show that the market and where your policy is going in the wrong direction or different directions? No.
Well, when you look at the reality, 2 weeks ago, the big battery, the world's leading big battery, $1 billion worth, had a catastrophic loss. It's kaput in technical corporate jargon. So the reality is Yallourn is going to have to stay there longer because the batteries that they're relying on don't exist. And when they've tried to, physics has caught up with them. So what we've said is sensibly, we'll extend the capacity investment scheme to existing energy sources as well as new ones. And that means that Raring and the coal-fired power stations and gas that's coming into our grid now is on a level playing field with renewables. And that buys us time to build nuclear energy, but it's also about the safeguards mechanism, taking away those financial burdens on our coal and gas in the grid at the moment, and new technologies. And it's also about making sure that energy operator actually sources the most affordable energy. At the moment, Chris Bowen is forcing the energy operator to actually source energy predicated on his 2035 targets. That's putting pressure on the energy market operator. So when will energy bills come down? In 2.5 years' time when there's election. But when could they come down? They could come down today if Anthony Albanese overrode Chris Bowen and implemented those 3 measures straight away.
Today?
Well, that's going to put downward pressure. Well, if you take away costs, if you remove the financial burden of the safeguards mechanism, Laura, they have to reduce their emissions by 4.95% every year between now and 2030. Sure. They don't have the technological solution for that at the moment, so they have to buy offsets. That's a cost. That cost gets passed on to you. If you expand the capacity investment scheme to underwrite energy, no matter the technology, then that puts downward pressure on all energy sources, not just renewables. And by giving that and allowing the energy operator to source all energies, you increase supply. Now, I don't know anyone that's rewritten the basic laws of demand and supply yet. Jim Chalmers had a go with the 6,000-word essay, but it didn't quite stack up. These are the measures that, if the Prime Minister was serious, why doesn't he put them in today? And if renewables are the cheapest, then the market will still sort it out. But these are the things that he's putting on a cost. Even if he wants to transition, you are going to need your lawn. You are going to need Araring. You're going to need Callide,
yep.
Araring, Carrara.
I get that. Yeah, I get
you're going
that.
to need Millmerran,
but also talking about, okay, let's just be realistic about how long you can extend the life of, say, your lawn and Araring for example. They're due to both close 27, 28. Say they can be extended by another couple of years, which, you know, those energy operators say is doubtful anyway. That brings us to, halfway through the next term. If you don't win the next election, how far away is nuclear then? It is still at least a decade away, and those plants can't be extended for that long. Do you concede that?
Well, if you look at Callide up in central Queensland, an $80 million investment, I heard from the minister on the weekend, David Littleproud. They made an $80 million investment that'll extend the life of Callide A and B. They've taken the time to invest in that. And what we do is by pulling those levers, you give them the certainty of having that baseload power continuing in the grid, because this is what we need to do to transition. Even if they want to put more renewables, there's not even the supply chain to be able to achieve it. The approvals process is running over everybody's rights in regional Australia and destroying the actual thing we're trying to protect, the natural environment. So Labor has no choice. They're not going to be able to transition to this. They're not going to get to 82% renewables by 2030. The physics has caught up with them, and the economics has already caught up with you, because you see that in your energy bill every quarter. But what we're saying is, if you pull these levers, you send that investment signal, that confidence, to make sure that we can have an energy grid that isn't all reliable on renewables, that gives us time to build baseload power like nuclear energy. And
but do you think that would change what Energy Australia is going to do? For example, with your lawn? I mean, they're already talking about a $5 billion investment to change it to a renewables hub. Do you think anything that you do from opposition is really going to change that trajectory for them? And they're making a decision based on the market and making money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's my point today, Laura. There's my challenge to the Prime Minister. I've never heard him asked when will energy prices come down? And he can't answer it, because he did promise you $275 this year off your 22 price. Hasn't happened. And the reality is these are the levers that send the investment signals to Energy Australia, to all the energy operators, whether they be Origin, whether they be Santos, or up in Queensland, the government-owned corporation. You send those investment signals. That's the power of being in government. That's the opportunity that Anthony Albanese has at his fingertips today. And when there are Australians tonight that will not be able to put dinner on the table, you have to ask the question, why? The Prime Minister's out of touch, and he doesn't understand the pain and hurt that Australians are feeling, not just in putting bread and butter on the table, but their job insecurity and the new industries like AI, data centres that can come to this country if we have baseload power.
Well, since that announcement was made, not just by the Nationals, but by the Liberals, and now this being a coalition policy in opposition, voters are looking at you and like you even less. Why is that?
I wouldn't say that, Laura. We've only just started on this process, and it would have been easier to simply say, no, we're out, but not have any detail. Parties of government can't do that. You've got to take the Australian people seriously, and you've got to be able to put a cogent pathway to it. I don't see anybody being able to put a hole in a cheaper, better, fairer way that we've put to Labor's $9 trillion net zero plan. No one's been able to destroy it, and because it's reality of how you can actually achieve more affordable energy in a sensible way. And that's the contest of ideas, and I think as you see that contest of idea between the Coalition and Labor Party, and the lived experience over the next 2.5 years of people's energy bills, and the fact that government's now going to have to spend billions of dollars to even keep Tomago going, says to the Australian people, Anthony Albanese and Chris Bowen have got it wrong.
Okay, well, the voters don't see it that way, but I take the caveat, a big caveat on the accuracy of polling. I just quickly wanted to ask you about the cost of this bomb website remake, the Bureau of Meteorology, now around $100 million. Wow, that's taxpayer money well spent, right?
Well, it's disgraceful, and there's a cultural deficiency at the Bureau of Meteorology. They actually said publicly that it cost $4.1 million. It's now $96 million, and the fact that they have misled the Australian people in that way is disgraceful. They should be an organisation that the Australian people can trust. particularly when they're using Australian taxpayers' money. The fact that they've gone and changed a website, a tool within that website that many Australians rely on, and particularly in rural and remote areas, that have changed the features of that without any consultation. And part of that $96 million was $12.1 million to educate and promote the changes. Well, no one knew any changes until they went to use it. But they've taken away features that people need in their hour of need, of understanding the weather fronts that are coming through. I don't know where Murray Watt is. He's gone silent on this. He is the minister responsible, and I don't know whether he's called the CEO in to ask for a please explain and to understand the set of circumstances of who did what when, but he should do that, and there should be consequences if there has been a blatant misrepresentation to the Australian people about what's happened with this thing. But this is a disgrace for the Bureau of Meteorology. They've had a litany of errors, not just in their forecasting, but now treating people with such disrespect in changing a website without even bothering to talk to the people who might use it. Just goes to show there's a cultural problem in the Bureau, and unless the Minister gets involved, I suspect we're going to see an erosion of any confidence in the Bureau moving forward.
Okay, I reckon Murray Watt's going to be squeezed for some answers today. We'll see. David, always good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.